are an effective way to train your brain back into your prefrontal cortex. They introduce a specific frequency to your brain in which it feels compelled to synchronize with, hence changing your psychological state back into a more effective one. What makes people decide to persist or give up on their goals after they face a setback? Well, that answer could come from brain scans. It doesn't matter who you are, we all face life-altering events that shape the directions of our lives.
The world economy is imperiled by a force hiding in plain sight.
It could be losing your job, your business, a loved one, or your health. 3 years ago, my sales plummeted and I was faced with losing everything. I began blaming myself for what had happened instead of acknowledging market conditions that were beyond my control. I entered a state of hyper-arousal where my adrenaline kept me going until one day it didn't. But just like you, I couldn't just sit back and let things fall apart. I had to take quick and decisive action, even if I wasn't operating at my best. I had to do 3 things to claw my way back. They were to regulate fear, frustration, and focus. And it's the last one that's the most important. A life without focus, especially during a setback, is pure chaos. You lose sight of the prize. You beat yourself up for not doing more. You lose hope, you lose money, you lose time, and you lose yourself. Managing your ability to focus is your only way back after a sudden setback. It must be your #1 priority. You must develop a relentless focus on the opportunities that are still in front of you and what is in, not outside of your realm of control, which is easier said than done when you don't know which way to turn or how to respond. There are 12 mistakes people make that cause them to lose focus in the midst of a setback. And I've got a free quiz to help you identify yours below. But first, we need to take a look at the first step you must take to regain control of your capacity to focus on what matters most right now. To do so, we have to answer the question, what makes a person persist or give up on their goals? According to research that was published in the Cell Press journal Neuron, after conducting brain scans on volunteers, they revealed that when people perceive themselves as having control over setbacks, a specific region of their brain is engaged and they're more likely to persist. But when they feel like they have no control or influence over their failings, a different region of the brain processes that feeling where it determines whether or not the individual should persist. This is key, so listen closely. The part of the brain that processes learning via trial and error, called the ventral striatum, is related to persisting through setbacks when they're viewed as controllable. Put simply, when you perceive a setback as within your realm of control, you're able to correct your mistakes and keep going. But when you view it as uncontrollable, you'll have to learn how to manage your fear, frustration, and your focus in order to persist. Let's focus on the first, fear. Your first protocol is to break the fear circuit, which is where your amygdala puts you into a state of fight or flight. I dive deep into this in my bestseller Unstoppable. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky. When we're afraid, we often don't recognize it immediately because we're judging circumstances from our primal mind instead of our prefrontal cortex, which is in control of logical thinking and decision making. You're more likely to make decisions based on immediate outcomes focused on safety than you are long-term strategies when you're in this state of mind. Think of fear like the wizard behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz.
Do not arouse the wrath of the great and powerful Oz.
Your imagination is perceiving him as being all great and powerful when it's just a man that Toto could probably take on.
The great and Oz has spoken.
To prevent catastrophization, sit down when you're in a calm state and ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen? But here's the key. You must be working from your prefrontal cortex, not your primal brain when you answer this question. You'll know you're in your primal mind if you start getting emotionally worked up instead of taking a step back from it. 99% of the time, this simple exercise when you're in the right state of mind to do it is going to provide you some instant relief. The second step is to ask, what would happen if everything worked out? This is one of my favorite questions. It's pure magic. It starts to reframe the setback as an opportunity to fine-tune your focus and your goals instead of a failure. Now that you've tackled one component of the psychological aspect of a setback, you must tackle frustration, but from a biological standpoint. In the free quiz below, you'll be asked to identify symptoms that are destroying your capacity to focus, like brain fog, nutrition, and fatigue. There are a multitude of factors that amplify unwanted emotions like frustration, anxiety, and fear, caffeine being one of the main culprits. Caffeine has been linked to the aggravation of anxiety disorders and can initiate panic attacks, especially those predisposed to them, which you are if you're in a precarious psychological state right now. Even though studies show cognitive benefits, caffeine is like borrowing money from a loan shark to pay off your other debts. You hit a point of diminishing returns, especially when you exceed 200 milligrams per day. You're going to get a quick jolt of energy and focus before you come crashing down, alongside your ability to regulate your emotions and remain focused on climbing your way back to the top of your game. Gradually wean yourself off of caffeine over the next 30 days and watch your anxiety reduce while you're going through this rough patch, which is going to put you in a better position to tackle the challenge at hand. You also must use failure as an opportunity to refocus. There is nothing more powerful than immense pressure to ignite sudden change. This can go one of two ways. The first, it can lead to helplessness, or it can lead to stepping up to the challenge. To avoid the first, you must get clear on what your goals are, then train your brain to enter a state of flow so you can work on them without the voices in the back of your head telling you that you're a failure. A few advanced strategies you can take include listening to binaural beats while working and taking nootropics. I cover them both in detail in my program, The Biohacker's Guide to Superhuman Focus. Binaural beats are an effective way to train your brain back into your prefrontal cortex. They introduce a specific frequency to your brain in which it feels compelled to synchronize with, hence changing your psychological state back into a more effective one. For example, I switched between listening to binaural beats that emit a theta frequency to using a device called Neuroscience that uses pulsed electromagnetic frequencies to achieve the same goal. I find theta is the best frequency to work in because you're in a deeply relaxed and meditative-like state. This is where you get to tap into your deeper intuition about what your next steps should be, while also inhibiting your propensity to act impulsively and make short-term decisions that have long-term consequences. When you master emotional regulation and tackle fear, frustration, and focus head-on, you'll pull that setback into the realm of your control by coming up with solutions that you can never reach in any other state other than a calm one. Your next step is to take the free quiz below to learn how to go from feeling despondent and unmotivated to unstoppable by learning how to activate dopamine, your motivation molecule. Click the link to learn more now.